The big focus that we have for you this morning on Morning News Hour is what's happening as far as Sushant Singh Rajput's death probe is concerned. Enforcement Directorate is all set to question actor Rhea Chakraborty and her brother and father in connection with the financial angle in Sushant's death probe. Rhea was questioned for about 8 hours on Friday, while her brother Showik was quizzed for over 16 hours. ED's line of questioning is revolving around Rhea's income, investments, business and professional deals and the links there. Along with Rhea, her brother and father and Siddharth Pithani, the friend, will also be questioned. Kajal and Arunil joining us on the broadcast this morning for more on this big story of the day. Kajal, to you first. I believe you're outside the ED office. Any clarity on, the timing? When is Rhea Chakraborty, her brother and father, expected to appear again before the Enforcement Directorate?
The usual functioning of the office starts sometime around 10 a.m. and so any time after that we can expect Rhea Chakraborty, Rhea Chakraborty, Showik Chakraborty and Siddharth Pithani to come to the ED office. Remember, Showik Chakraborty had been questioned twice already, the second time being an 18-hour-long marathon session by the ED asking him about the companies that he was director along with Sushant Singh Rajput in. The other members of the family, that is Indrajit and Rhea Chakraborty, have only been questioned once, and they will be coming here once more today to corroborate various property deals and other financial documents that the ED has asked them to come up with. So all of these details are to be gathered at any point of time. Siddharth Pithani used to handle some of the finances of Sushant Singh Rajput, which is why he will also be questioned on those aspects. But beyond that, Siddharth Pithani's role is perhaps more important in the FIR that the CBI has registered rather than in the ED case.
Okay, stay on with us, Kajal. Priyank Tripathi, my colleague, is also now joining us live. Priyank, I want to ask you specifically about the line of questioning by ED as far as Rhea Chakraborty is concerned. What more details can you share with us? What did she tell the Enforcement Directorate? Was she cooperating in this probe?
The Enforcement Directorate will try to find out the two company detail in which Rhea's parents, her father and her brother were stakeholders. What we can expect that the Enforcement Directorate today will be doing a joint questioning of Rhea Chakraborty, Indrajit Chakraborty and Showik Chakraborty, because all of them have been separately questioned in detail by the Enforcement Directorate. Initially, Showik was questioned for 8 hours, then he was also questioned in the second round for 18 hours. So what we can also know that the ED will be looking into the game of this copyright, taking advantage of the copyright, because the company was owned by Sushant Singh Rajput, but without any kind of investment. Rhea and her father and Showik, in which Showik was a partner in one of the company, was about to take the royalty which would have come out from these patent thing. So that is one aspect of the investigation. On the other side, one of the property which was purchased by Rhea's family was in crores, but it was purchased in very minimum amount. One more thing which the ED will also be looking at is the 2001 property which was purchased by Rhea's father before Rhea could meet Sushant Singh Rajput. So there are several things which the Enforcement Directorate will be looking at, but the joint questioning of the family members and taking advantage of the patent and the royalty which would have come out from the patent of these companies which were owned by Sushant Singh Rajput would be one of the key aspects of this particular investigation. There have been several discrepancies in the statement of Rhea Chakraborty, but today the Enforcement Directorate, on the basis of the document which they have already taken from these companies, the family members will be questioned that how is it possible that suddenly after meeting Sushant, the spending pattern of the family increased, their business increased, they became partner with Sushant Singh Rajput. Whether that had any kind of role in the death of Sushant Singh Rajput is one thing which the ED will be looking at.
Okay, so you're telling us there have been certain discrepancies, and the focus, of course, is going to be that how suddenly the spending pattern changed, and why really Rhea Chakraborty and her brother were made directors in two of the companies, Priyank, that were also floated by Sushant Singh Rajput. I mean, you know, the company angle is also going to be the key focus.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because the companies, if you see the pattern of the spending of the this particular family, 3 to 4 years back, the total family member, all 4 of them, Rhea, Showik, Indrajit, and Rhea's mother, they were filing an RTR of 20 lakh rupees per annum. That was the total income of the family. But after meeting Sushant, the spending pattern increased drastically. Rhea started spending 22 lakh rupees almost a month, and similar kind of thing was happening with Showik, because the family was staying with Sushant Singh Rajput. Whether Sushant had given any kind of legal writing to use his bank account to spend the money which was there in his account is one of the key aspects which could have led to abetment. Because we have to remember, this case is related to abetment to suicide of Sushant Singh Rajput. Later to that, the illegal confinement also comes into picture, according to the allegation which was put in by Mr. K.K. Singh, father of Sushant Singh Rajput. So Sushant's company having a patent right, and the Sushant company giving this kind of patent advantage to someone else is one thing which the ED will also look into, because these are the illegal things which would have happened over a period of time. So there are many minute details which the ED officials will certainly not share as per this moment, because the accused side would be prepared. So we won't be in a position to tell it to our viewers, but what they can basically understand, that a family which had 20 lakh ITR suddenly became partners of crores of business is certainly not something common which happened to anyone's life. And for that, there was another conspiracy angle which Mr. Vikas Singh also said yesterday, that Rhea started distancing the family members of Sushant Singh Rajput from him, and later to that, the money which was supposed to be given to his sisters was transferred in the account of Rhea Chakraborty, which is certainly not looking common to the investigating agencies.
Right.
2 central agencies will be looking into the case, and tomorrow is one other big day in this particular case, when the Apex Court will hear the matter pertaining to this.
Okay, stay on with us. In fact, we are getting a breaking update as well. Kajal, if you could give us more details. We are being told that already Rhea Chakraborty and her family members are on their way to reach the ED office. So perhaps any moment from now, they're expected to be there.
Rhea and Showik have left from their Juhu house, and it will take them around 40 minutes given the current traffic to reach here at the ED house in ED office in South Mumbai. And they have left, which means they could be here, let's say, by 10 o'clock maximum, which is when the ED office would also be starting to function. So it does seem that, unlike last time when they had come sometime around noon, this time they're coming much earlier, and they are going to be facing this barrage of questions that the ED has prepared for them to try and understand whether or not there was any money laundering and what exactly was the nature of financial dealings between Sushant Singh Rajput and the Chakraborty family, because that is the main contention of Sushant Singh Rajput's family, that financial problems, financial dealings led to whatever happened to Sushant Singh Rajput. So that is the focus of the ED investigation. The actual death, of course, will be investigated by the CBI or the Maharashtra police, depending on who the Supreme Court favors in this particular case. But the ED looking purely at the financial transactions.
Right, stay on with us, Kajal. Priyank, now what is happening as far as the CBI's investigation is concerned? We know that an FIR has already been registered, and we were also being told that some CBI officials were to reach Mumbai. What's happening on that side?
See, the CBI officials are in the process of collecting the information from the Bihar police officials. The 4-member team which came here, although the SP could not, come out of his quarantine, what we have seen. So the 4-member team of the SIT, which was headed by the DSP rank officer, will be submitting the document to the Central Bureau of Investigation, although they would have submitted, but so far we have not got any official version from the Central Bureau of Investigation. So on one side, the CBI will have to question all those key players in this particular abetment to suicide case, because everyone is not telling the truth before the investigating agency. Like we saw in the news with Navika Kumar, Pithani kept on changing statement whenever he came. So this kind of deliberate attempt to give a different picture of what was happening earlier is a tough job for the CBI officials. CBI will be looking into abetment to suicide case angle, and the Enforcement Directorate will be looking into the illegal confinement of Sushant Singh Rajput's money and the illegal gotten wealth which the Chakrabortys had over the period of time, according to the allegation which has been put in by the family members of Sushant Singh Rajput. So there are two sets of investigation on which the agencies will have to work in coordination. Obviously, they should not behave like what Maharashtra police and Bihar police behaved in the last few days, because Maharashtra and Bihar police kept on fighting, and in the meanwhile, these accused came up with different kind of alibis. Like what we saw yesterday was a very shameful act by the accused side to put a picture that Sushant Singh Rajput's sister had molested allegedly Rhea Chakraborty inside a party house, and that led to conflict in between Sushant and Sushant's sister. So there were several alibis which were created by the accused side over this period of time, because they could have buy out time. We know that the DCP rank officer of the Maharashtra police was in touch with Rhea Chakraborty, who was heading the probe. So many things has come out. It's job for the CBI to dig out the detail. What is true? The country want to know what happened with Sushant Singh Rajput. The country want to know how is it possible that a girl who suddenly comes into the life of Sushant and become owner of this kind of huge property. That would be very important to know that till how much long time period the agencies will take to take out the detail pertaining to this particular investigation.
Right, stay on with us, Priyank. Kajal, I also want to ask you about, this angle of the fixed deposit. As Priyank was also telling us, the money was actually supposed to go to the sister's account, but went to Rhea Chakraborty's account. So are we likely to see the sisters also being called for questioning? Because eventually it's about the money that was supposed to go to them, went to Rhea Chakraborty. That has been the allegation.
Now, that is not, if you look at the PMLA Act, that is not something that is in the purview of the PMLA, especially if it is account to account transfer. If there is a proper trail of bank statements, then that would not be something that they would investigate as a money laundering thing. But yes, given the fact that all the financial transactions are being put under scrutiny, that is something that they will look into. Whether or not the sisters need to be called is something that the ED will probably decide after the questioning today, because initially they did say that they felt that Rhea Chakraborty was not actually cooperating with the investigation. So it will depend on what answers they get from her, and whether they feel that these need to be corroborated with the sister's claim, and accordingly they will try to find this out. Account to account transfers is something that they're just generally looking at, but what is mainly the ED's case is, was there any round tripping of funds with those companies that were found in Sushant, Showik and Rhea's names?
All right, and of course that 15 crore transaction that the family has mentioned in the FIR, in the complaint that was filed in Patna. Thank you very much, Kajal, as well as Priyank, for the moment, for joining us with all of those details. We'll keep coming back to you for more on this big story. We'll slip into a very short break on Morning News Hour. More on the other side. Stay with us.